Hello, and welcome to another episode of Purlfect Pairings. My name is Gayanne, and my pronouns are she and her. Before I get started, in the spirit of reconciliation, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I have for you a chock-full episode today. I wanted to record and release an episode before I left for my trip to the United States. I'm going to visit my family in Massachusetts and to attend Vogue Knitting Live. And I am so excited because my mom decided that she wanted to attend as well. So we're going as a family with not only my mom, but my two sisters. I'm not sure how much knitting my sisters will be doing during the time that we're there, but it will be a really fun family trip that I am very much looking forward to. So for this episode, I have a big announcement to make, and then I will go through some of my works in progress, and then I really want to talk about a couple of KALs that I'm involved in. I've got a few acquisitions, not too many, and then we'll wrap it up. So first, announcement. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen my announcement that I am now accepting knitwear designers as clients for tech editing. Tech editing is a process that is really not I think it's not very well spoken of or well known. It's a process where the designer has an editor review their patterns, not only for language and explanations of things, but also for the math behind the patterns. So stitch counts and grading and those types of things that are checked by a tech editor. And it really helps, the process just really helps with making the knitting experience for the consumer, that is the knitter, a more pleasurable experience, so that the knitter will want to make more of that designer's patterns in the future. The process should be, or the process of tech editing should really be done prior to the pattern going out to test knitters, because those test knitters, while they can pick up errors in a pattern, you want those test knitters who are generally knitting an object for the designer for free to have the best experience that they can have in the process of their test knitting. So it's a way that I found that I will be able to more deeply engage with my knitting hobby and the knitting community, and I'm really excited to be on this journey, advancing my skills and learning and getting to work with new people. So I'm super excited about that. If you are a knitwear designer who happens to watch this program and want more information about my tech editing service, you can DM me on Instagram, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Now, I also am wearing my latest finished object that I am so proud of. This is the Trigonometric shawl by Oliphant Cat. That's Katrina Walzer. She designs under the name of Oliphant Cat. It is a beautiful brioche, single-colored brioche shawl, and it is so squishy and has made the most delicious fabric. I loved the construction of this shawl. It was really unique with two different panels. I haven't woven in the ends, so apologies for if you can see them floating around. So brioche, panel construction. The other aspect of this pattern that I really enjoyed was that it starts with, so for the main panel or the larger panel, you start with a larger number of stitches and then decrease. So each row becomes shorter and shorter as you go. And that to me is makes it a bit more engaging when I can see that progress, and the work becomes faster and faster, and then you finally finish off with just a very small number of stitches. I have knit this in a yarn by an indie designer called Dirty Water Dye Works, which was also very fitting because I purchased this yarn back in 2022 when I was last in Massachusetts with my parents, and I took my mom on a yarn shop crawl throughout Boston and Cambridge, and this was one of the yarns that I purchased during that trip. So it's really come full circle now. The colorway is Cool Waters, and it's the Lucia DK. It took just shy of 4 skeins of this yarn to complete the project. I played a little bit of yarn chicken, although towards the end I got quite confident that I would be able to finish within the parameters of the yarn given in the pattern, which is, I think, a first for me. If you've seen my shawl knitting projects previously, at least 2 of them I've had to get additional skeins, sometimes more than 1 additional skein, so there you go. Love this pattern, would highly recommend it. Katrina herself is a tech editor, and her pattern is just spot on, very clear to understand. The instructions are really good, and I think even maybe not a full beginner because it is brioche, but definitely a beginner-friendly brioche pattern. In my previous episode, I talked about how I am planning to wear sweaters by Susanna Kartinen. Susanna has kindly lent me a few of her sample sweaters to wear while I'm at Vogue Knit Live. And this shawl, the Trigonometric, was one of 3 shawls that I wanted to have finished prior to Vogue Knitting so that I could represent some other Australian designers while I'm there. So the second, or actually the first whip I'm going to talk to you about is the second of those projects, and this one has a bit more work to do, but unlike Trigonometric, this shawl, the rows increase in length towards the end, so I'm at that point where each row is taking me quite a bit of time, so I may have just underestimated the time I needed to finish this shawl, but there's still a few more weeks, so there's hope. But I wanted to show this shawl again, and it is fabulous. It is the Simplice shawl by Vera Marcoux, who you can find on Instagram at Vera Loves Knitting. And it's a beautiful shawl done in fingering weight yarn with Simply Knits and Pearls. The pattern on it, and I'll put a photograph in here, the pattern on this shawl looks so complex, but it really is, as the name suggests, quite simple. And I would highly recommend this shawl for even a beginner knitter. I've knit this in Pirate Pearl Blackbeard, which is a Polwarth silk blend that comes from Tarndie. I believe the base is from Tarndie. And you can, if you want to know more about Tarndie the farm, I've interviewed Tom, the brains behind Tarndie, in episode 4. So you can check that out. But yes, the Simplice, it is just beautiful, fun to work, and a lovely, lovely pattern. The third of the 3 shawls that I'm trying to accomplish before Vogue Knitting Live is the Fernshaw shawl by Shara Beth Lambert, who designs under Shara Made. I am making this shawl, which is absolutely stunning, in a combination, it's a 2-color brioche, and I'm making this in a combination of this yarn, a fingering weight yarn by Owl of Athena in the colorway Fairy Riot, And then on this side, this is a yarn, a beautiful yarn from the Purl box. It's their Oyster yarns. The base is Maven and the colorway is Cherish. Now I'm going to put in a photograph because I've made a mistake, and here is a picture of the mistake. I believe that I might have purled when I meant to knit in this particular row. And what I'd like is for you to comment in the comments below whether you would unpick the whole thing row by row, whether you would attempt brioche surgery, so down each column of the mistake rows, or whether you would leave it alone and finish it because no one will really notice it in the end. I would love that. Those are my 3 choices currently. If I don't go back and fix it, I might be able to get this one done as well prior to going to Vogue Knit Live. But I also really want to do justice not only to Shara's pattern, but also to this beautiful yarn. So I'm really grappling with that choice right now. But anyway, the Fern shawl is another beautiful brioche pattern. We've got such talented designers here in Australia, and even here locally in Victoria. Shara's very local. It's just, I really wanted to be able to represent and be a bit of an ambassador while I'm over in the States. My next whip is actually a very small whip, and it's not of a size that I would normally share with you, but there are so many knit-alongs happening right now. It's unbelievable, and I love a good KAL. I can't resist a good knit-along. And this knit-along is even more special because a family member of mine who you might know either on Instagram or through Ravelry as Woolly Needle sent me an invitation to join this KAL and sent me a copy of the pattern so that I could complete it. It is the Artist's Shawl by Natasha Hornby, who designs under Moonstruck Knits. This shawl is absolutely stunning example of not only stranded color work, but Natasha's notable mosaic style. And I have been admiring Natasha's shawls for so long. This was really a fantastic opportunity for me to dive in. And I had a bunch of skeins of Darnie, which is a Studio Donegal yarn sold by Spinning Yarn Weaving Tales, and I love all of my colors. The colors are numbered, so I won't read out the numbers, but I have as my main color, or the first color, this beautiful light gray. I'll then transition into using this dark blue as my second color. Then I've got a medium blue as my third color. A beautiful, I would call this tan or khaki, maybe a light camel colored for color 4. And then a beautiful pink, of course. Couldn't do this shawl without a bit of pink as my 5th color. And I don't have a huge amount done yet, but here it is. This is the first section completed, and it is beautiful. Now, Darnie still has some spinning oil in it, so I think that this will soften up and perhaps bloom a bit once it is blocked, washed and blocked. And the non-superwash nature of it makes it perfect for color work. And it really is, I would probably have that next to skin even now, so if that gets any softer, it'll just be amazing. And Woolly Needle helped me to pick out and order my colors So I was so grateful to receive the pattern. She has some patterns on Ravelry as well, so I'd highly recommend if you for you to check out those patterns. There's some beautiful shawl and sweater patterns, and I'll put a link in the description box below. So looking forward to that. The KAL runs until the 29th of February, so definitely during February I'll be prioritizing this project. And I'm really looking forward to expanding my colorwork skills and testing myself with it. The second KAL that I'm also super excited for is still not yet a whip. I do need to cast this on, and maybe I will do that tonight after I'm done editing this podcast and getting it out into the universe for you. But that is the Purlfect KAL, and that's being run by Andrea, who is a podcaster in California. Her channel is knitla55, and I'll link to that again in the description box below. Andrea has a really lovely demeanor. I love the pace of her podcast. She's just that kind of artistic friend that I would love to have. She has her color selection and her aesthetic really align with mine, so I really enjoy her podcast, and check it out if you have any more podcast time. I'll be knitting my Pierre pullover in the Eucalyptus Fade by Natural Yarn Company, and the colors in that are just absolutely beautiful. I have them here, but I think what I'll do is I'll line them up and take a picture so you can see them all together. I have put a picture of them in the skein up on Instagram, so you can you may have already seen them there, but they are just beautiful. And this KAL actually is going, I think, until the end of May, so you have lots of time. It's open for all of the Pierre patterns, and I think there is at least a shawl, the pullover, and some socks that West Knits have put out. I will try and link to all of those below, so you can check out those patterns and see if you would like to knit along with us. It's more fun the more people that get involved. I know that from the Santa Sweater KAL, which was fabulous, and it's really fun to knit in community and watch everyone else's projects grow along with your own. So what KALs are you doing? There just seems to be so many of them to start the year off. I'd be interested for you to leave a comment about what KALs you are doing, or if you don't like a knit along, why not? I'd love to have a discussion about that as well. I'd like to highlight now a couple of acquisitions or things that have come into my life that are making my knitting life richer. And the ones that I'm sharing with you today are in my life thanks to my wonderful husband, who did an incredible job selecting some Christmas gifts for me. The first one is this, which is a set of Lantern Moon interchangeable needles. Now these needles are absolutely beautiful. I'll take out the biggest size because that might be the easiest for you to see. But here they are. Maybe I'll just insert a picture. It might be easier. They are made from ebony, and the experience of them is knitting with the lightness of wood. They're not as light as bamboo, but they do have the lightness of wood. But what I find is that they have the smoothness of metal, and I just love working with these needles. They are by far the best needles that I've used. They come, well, my kit my set came with cords that have swivel capabilities, so they don't get all twisted or bound up, which is wonderful. And they have these beautiful stitch markers, if I can find them, tassel stitch markers that they're just really fun. Anyway, look, I'm losing my shawl. We'll pop that back on. Get that around. There we go, strings flying everywhere. I'll have to weave in those ends soon. I'm so bad about that. Anyway, it's all good. Needles. The second gift that was under my tree was this beautiful project bag by Danny at A Knitter's Suitcase. Danny makes fabulous, fabulous project bags, and this bag is no exception. The drawstring is wonderful, works like a trick. This bag is currently holding 3 skeins of fingering weight yarn and my New Year's Day cast on. Sorry, maybe this was my Christmas Day cast on. Anyway, it's in there. I'll talk about it on another episode. But it's beautiful. The contrasting fabrics, I love the Banksias on this, and the handle. It's great. Highly, highly recommend Danny's bags. And the last 2 things that I want to talk about are 2 books. And the first one is this, Patty Lyon's Knitting Bag of Tricks. And I think this book is feels to me like taking a year-long knitting course just in a few minutes of reading that I've been doing every evening. In it, Patty recommends that you read it basically cover to cover, but then keep it as a resource. And what is really good is that you can, for example, if you have questions about Make One, there's a whole section, maybe of 3 or 4 pages, just explaining different techniques and how to make your Make One increases neater, a bit tidier, more uniform. And the advice that Patty gives you is very practical. So I've been really enjoying this book. Patty's humor also comes through. So it's just a real joy to read. So loving that. And then this book, which is 55 Fantastic Japanese Knitting Stitches by Katomi Hayashi. And this is a stitch source book that is full of beautiful stitches, and it has some patterns. And of course I didn't flag the pattern that I love, but I want to show you, so you have to bear with me. Here it is, the cartouche shawl, and I might put a picture in if that's not coming out. But it's a beautiful textured, colorful shawl, and just beautiful stitch patterns which can help you get creative, make your own smaller projects. And for me, it's even just a bit of escapism, really, if I want to just sit down and look at some beautiful pictures for a while with my cup of tea. Why not? But yes, fabulous book, and highly recommend that as well. Well, friends, this is the end of this episode. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like more of knitty, yarny goodness content, and I've got some interviews planned for next year. So subscribe to the channel by clicking the button below. It really helps the channel gain traction with other viewers. It makes the video come up in people's feeds, so it will get more notice, and more notice equals more exposure for the Australian yarn community and all of the amazing small businesses that we have here that we love to support. So until next time, I will see you on Instagram. I'll be sure to post in stories and reels of my trip. I've got some definite yarn adventures planned in addition to Vogue Knitting Live, so be sure to follow me on Instagram as well. And I will see you next time, and until then, happy knitting!